Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Kahn Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media. That's AMPIRE. Always much appreciated. Today, I'm joined by three of my young colleagues. We're all about the same age, so you can take that to the bank. Sam Fortier from the Washington Post, Matthew Paris from the Washington Times, and Pete Hailey from NBC Sports Washington. Always enjoy having these three of my colleagues on because I think each one of them gives a different perspective, and I wanted to pass that along to you. Now, this is a podcast I was supposed to run on Friday, but then there was some news that sort of disrupted the plans. With this podcast, we're going to get back to almost all on the field stuff, a little bit of ownership stuff, but mostly on the field. The Commanders report for their spring workouts on Monday, the 17th. Now, what that means is it's conditioning. So we're not going to see them until I think it's May 24th or 25th at the earliest. That's when the OTA sessions begin, where they get back on the field, and then we can go watch for one of those. We'll get to watch one OTA session each week. Anyways, they're coming back on Monday, so we're back to on the field stuff. The draft, quarterback. What does it signal if they go and draft a Hendon Hooker, for example? What would that signal to my colleagues? We talk about all that. So stay tuned for that. One brief minute about the ownership situation. Until it's signed, it's not final. So even though there's still the agreement, it's not finalized. So when that happens, then that gets sent to the league for approval, sent to the finance committee. But right now, all it is, it's an agreement in principle with the Josh Harris Group and Dan Snyder. But the Canadian billionaire, Steve Apostolopoulos, believes that he still has a shot. So I think until it's signed, sealed, and delivered, then it remains open for someone else to kind of maybe wrestle it away from the Harris Group. The Harris Group does have the highest bid of those two. And so that's where it stands right now. So there's really no update. It's exactly what we talked about the other day, but I just wanted to pass that along. Now, one other thing too, and I've talked about this a couple of times in regards to the rebranding. And I've told you, they're going to have to wait because you can't just come in right away and do it again. That's not how it works. If they wanted to change the name, the one thing I'll say, and I don't know what the new owners, whether it's Harris or Apostolopoulos, would they go out and change the name? I do know people here say they don't think it would happen. However, it would be up to the new owner to decide which direction they want to go. I will caution you, and I will just say that I think regardless of the name, what they have to do is set up a better organization. Because if you go out there and you're still doing, maybe not the off-field stuff, but you're not a good team, then I don't care what the name is. You're going to struggle to root for this team. People struggled to root for them when they were the Redskins the last 5-10 years because of the owner and because it wasn't a good organization. The most important thing here is not the name. It's to set up the right organization. I get the attachment. I'm an Indians fan. Getting used to the Guardians, but it's a good organization. So it's a lot easier for me as a fan to go back and follow them. I get all that. But like I said, and I don't know what will happen with the new groups, with whichever new group comes in. If they want to change it, if they want to change it and they want to pay for all that and go through all the hassle again, hey, it's their dime. But I will go back to the number one thing they have to do is set up a good organization. So you guys can not only root for a team that wins, but one that you can enjoy following, just like those of you who were around for the Gibbs era and even the George Allen era. That's what you guys could do back then. That's what people haven't been able to do for a long time, regardless if it was the Redskins or the Commanders. Anyway, so number one priority, set up a good organization, one that makes the fans proud. There you go. Now, stay tuned for my conversation with Sam Fortier from the Washington Post, Matthew Paris from the Washington Times, and Pete Hailey from NBC Sports Washington. Did you know the largest ropes course and zipline park in the country is right here in the DMV? Located in the heart of Montgomery County, the Adventure Park at Sandy Spring combines climbing and ziplining to create an aerial obstacle course unlike any other. With challenges anywhere from 10 to 75 feet in the air, there is something for all skill levels. Looking for some family time or the perfect date night before football season starts? You can even climb and zip line under the stars. Would you rather keep your feet on the ground? Give axe throwing a try. With their projector systems, you can throw at traditional targets, play tic-tac-toe, connect four, or even hunt zombies. Listeners of this show can get $5 off any ticket by entering the code KEIM23DC at checkout. That's KEIM, K-E-I-M 23DC. So there you have it, folks. Climbing, ziplining, axes, food, and bonfires right in your backyard. The weather is warming up, so it's the perfect time to head outside and join the adventure at www.theadventurepark.com. That's www.theadventurepark.com and enter promo code KEIM23DC. Always my favorite group. It's Sam Fortier and others. Welcome, others.
Thank you.
And so for those who don't know, we had something from Ron Rivera that we posted an interview, and it was, I think the description was John Keim, Sam Fortier, and others talk to Ron Rivera. So
yeah, well, I was the other, and
because Matt wasn't there.
Not there.
Yeah.
Yes, I was at.
Matt was absent.
Wizards.
Yeah, Matt was. Yeah, he was at the Wizards. So, but anyways, guys, always enjoy when you coming on, and just so people know, if you watch Succession, I think Matt Paris would be one of the disgusting brothers. Do we agree with that?
Well,
agree with
okay. Yes, for sure.
Who would be the other disgusting brother? Because I'm wondering, like,
Paris, I hope your girlfriend doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if there's a disgusting brother here, only single guy here. I'll just put it that way.
So I don't know who the other one would be. I mean, maybe Ben. I don't know.
I think Ben definitely fits in. Ben in Paris is the disgusting brother.
That would be phenomenal. So anyway, I don't know, like Sam, if this is a Succession, you're probably Kendall because of his reliance on. He would be a true media guy, don't you think? Do you think no? Because he'd be a true
that
media
really
guy.
Hurts my feelings.
But he'd be a true media guy.
I don't have nearly the number of daddy issues that Kendall has.
No, but from the true media perspective, he's a stats guy. He's a stats guy. Anyway,
I guess I can take that.
All right. Anyway, I don't want to go off the rails with all that. We all like Succession, and I don't want to spoil anybody if they haven't watched it. But we all enjoy it. I think. Do you enjoy it, Pete? Or are you just you watch it?
I like it a lot, but Paris and Sam worship at the altar of it, and I'm just not there.
Pete does this thing where if anyone likes anything in culture that's not golf or sports betting, he has to like insult it. So he's like, "Yeah, no, I know about it. I'm cool, but I just don't love it."
Yeah,
golf, sports betting, and the chain smokers. Let's not.
Those are my three pillars right there.
There you go.
We've got to throw that in there.
I am a big fan as well. So, and speaking of Succession, because we kind of have that going on here. So I don't know, and I don't want to get into ownership a lot because I want to get on the field. And I was going to ask you guys this too, because I am curious, whoever comes in, whoever it is, what is the top priority for a new owner?
I just think
for me, it has to be stadium because go ahead, Pete.
Sam's Wi-Fi is slower than Cornelius Lucas running the 40-yard dash, by the way, which is great for a podcast. I'll be quick and then I'll kick it back to Sam. I think it's just be a human being who can be identified by the fans. And I know there's more serious things that will help advance the franchise, but be someone who does interviews, who doesn't hide behind others, who doesn't use others as shields, and just has a face that people can recognize and say, oh, there's a real flesh and bones, and there's organs and blood, and that is a person instead of this mythical, awful creature running this team. And that's a terrible description, but I think a lot of people agree with that's how Snyder's been doing things.
Like Pete said, obviously, like being a good faith stakeholder with the public and trying to build the team the right way is the number one priority. But in terms of business, I think it has to be the stadium, not only because FedEx is terrible, but also because like that's a huge economic driver for the league, for owners. Like, one of the components of the Lamar Jackson talk that I did not understand, not to go back there, but it was like, so an owner is going to, save up basically his whole life to build up all the capital that he needs to like buy into a team, and then he's immediately going to come in and like make angry the 31 other coworkers that he now has.
Right.
Like, that part of it never made sense to me. And the thing that would make the 31 other people the happiest with him, that would get him the most capital, is like doing a good stadium, getting this fan base back, and like making this franchise carry its weight in the league circles. And so I think that would be the number one priority, because other billionaires want to see this thing make money, because that makes them money.
And one of the things with the stadium, obviously the place that would resonate the most is RFK, which still hurdles there, but that's the place that would resonate the most. Don't
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's still, even though there are hurdles, I think that's definitely on the table, if not the leader.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's
Good.
interesting.
All right, that's it. Let's move on.
Yep.
Thanks for joining, Paris. See you
Honestly,
next time.
Totally fine. I was just going to ramble. So
No, go ahead.
Great. Oh, well, I was going to say, if it is Josh Harris, it is interesting to see what's happening in Philadelphia with him at the moment, trying to build a stadium downtown in Chinatown, and seeing the opposition for that. I think there would still be hurdles with RFK, but I do think the stadium is the top priority. But there are also interesting football decisions depending on when this happens. Like, what does the new owner think about Chase Young's fifth-year option? I'm kind of really interested in what they do there.
And I think the biggest, to me, a big thing has to be regaining the trust of the fan base.
Yep.
All this stuff, and it kind of encompasses all the things you say, because it goes to winning, it goes to stadium, it goes to what Pete said, kind of being a guy that is running it. Like, I think there's been a wearing down because of all the scandals, obviously, and how much of that has turned people away for good. And, can you win those people back? How? And just like be a professional franchise. Sam, you had something?
Yeah, like, and this is a totally open question that I have no insight into, but do we think that Josh Harris has a take on Chase Young's fifth-year option? Like,
no.
If Ron Rivera went up to Josh Harris today and was like, what do you think, man? Like, would Josh Harris have an opinion?
No. I think somebody with him might. I think that's the thing you don't know. They're clearly, you're going to buy this. You're going to know a lot about what you're getting into. But I think it's more so from the standpoint, to Matt's point, is you're going to go to them and say, this is our, if you're Ron Rivera, you go to them and say, this is our plan for Chase Young. Do you agree with this or not? And just lay out the vision. And I think then, because there are some owners who might say, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just pick up Chase Young's option? Because I think you have to explain to them, if you don't pick it up and he has a really good year, then you franchise him. And then this is the cost of the franchise. So you could save $4 to $6 million right now by the fifth-year option versus the tag. That's where I think they might say, well, then, they may have an opinion based on that information.
But if you're buying a team for $6 billion, is that $4 to $6 million transaction, like, is that something that you have strong thoughts on? Maybe it is. It just seems like the economics don't make sense there.
Billionaires don't give away money easily.
Sure.
I don't give it away easily.
Yeah. No wonder you're never buying lunch for us in the media room, you cheapskate.
Oh, appreciate those deals on the side, Kime. I won't let the others know. But I think it goes beyond like the money thing. I think it's who Chase Young is as a player. He's one of the faces of the franchise. And if you do turn down that option, I think you're kind of setting the table for him to leave eventually, even if you have to franchise tag him. So it's just more of the optics of it. And the next owner is going to want to understand the optics. And if you can clear those optics ahead of the decision, I think that really helps.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Let's now get to the field, because again, that's where I think people want to keep, because there's only so much you can talk about ownership because it's not settled. And even though I think we all think we know who it would be, we don't know, it's not settled. So they come back for workouts starting on Monday. Going through the spring, what are some of the things that you guys are most interested in seeing and learning about this team? Pete?
Well, number one, to tie it into the last conversation, will Chase Young be there, and is he able to do everything? I'm assuming he will be able to do everything because he played in 3 games to end last year. But when Sam Fortier and others caught up with Rivera at that memorial event recently, we talked about Chase Young's health, and he said, yeah, that's something we want to monitor, which caught my ear. Like, wait, we're still monitoring this? This isn't closed. This part of the book isn't closed. So will Chase Young be there? And is he doing everything? And I know it takes a while for football stuff to begin, but Chase Young's just involvement, and also the Howell Brissett dynamic. Again, this is something that will probably be more telling come training camp, but is Howell getting everything? Are they making him quote unquote earn it? Is Brissett taking anything with the first team guys? Like just the early tells of Rivera's true feelings about the quarterback battle. If there's a battle, if there's anything, I don't anticipate a battle, but Rivera does tend to flip-flop on the opinion and the statements he gives when it comes to talking about who's going to be this team's quarterback.
Maddie?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Sam Howell develops. I mean, this is more of a training camp thing too, but his footwork, I think watching Sam Howell last year during camp, the footwork at times was just, kind of a mess. And so, he's made strides in that area apparently, but I'm just kind of interested to see if you continue to see that potential. And I'm kind of interested to see how the offensive line shakes out. Yeah. Where does Nick Gates play? I mean, does Andrew Norwell even show up after Rivera seemingly forgot about him a few weeks ago?
I don't think he forgot about him. Just a hunch.
Sure. But that's the thing. They're going to have to make that move at some point. Right. If they do. I mean, it's, but you could have a lot of possibilities with this O-line, and just interested to see kind of how that shakes out as well.
Schematically, I think, you guys hit on the top three: Chase Young, quarterbacks, offensive line. To me, this will be our first glimpse of Eric Bieniemy on the field with this team. And obviously he has a reputation for being a hard coach, really hammering the details. Even in April, in May, is he still getting after these guys? And how do these guys respond to that? Because Scott Turner was obviously a more laid back, manager type. And I think that if Eric Bieniemy is going to be, what?
I don't know if that's true, man. I wouldn't say that. I don't know. So many inside jokes on this podcast that nobody else will understand.
Yeah,
that was Pete's impersonation of Scott, which I think is not too far off.
No.
Yeah. And also, just how does Eric Bieniemy make all these pieces fit together, right? Like offensive line, quarterback, that's all really important. And obviously those parts could change after the draft. But I think we know what to expect from Jack Del Rio, and the defensive personnel is probably not going to change all that much. So the offense, how is Eric Bieniemy going to cook? That's the question I have.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'm anxious to see him when we can, because we're not going to be able to watch them or be around them until, actually, the rookie mini camp is the first chance we'll be actually around the coaches, which is I think
May 12th.
May 12th, right? And then the OTA that we can go to is later in May, so we won't see that. But that is something that I'm curious to hear about and to monitor, because it is, and I think just the life that he can inject into this offense and the confidence that players start to gather throughout this process. Because I think change will bring some of that, and how much will that help? But then Howell's progression is going to be everything. And, is there anybody else that doesn't show up? Cam Curl, he's up for an extension. Montez Sweat up for an extension. We saw Daron Payne and Terry McLaurin handle that differently last year, and both were eventually taken care of.
And of course, just how does going back to Paris, the O-line, how do they transition further into life without Eric Flowers? I think it's a huge question on all of our minds. Can they survive without Eric Flowers?
And listen,
and for that analysis, we bring in Bill Callahan on the eve of Thanksgiving.
And here's a little inside joke on that. So on Thanksgiving, what year was that? 2019. And we have a conference call we didn't have to go out to practice. So it's essentially, you can go be with your family or whatever. And you want, but they said, we'll get a conference call with Bill Callahan. And you're thinking a couple minutes, all you're going to ask about is, did anybody get hurt on the field today? What's the injury report? And then we get through a couple of those and we're like, all right, we're good. And then Pete throws one right down the middle of Callahan's wheelhouse, which is about what would you say? What kind of a season is Eric Flowers having? Well, he knows he loves flowers, and he speaks for 2 minutes on it.
Yeah, Kime was ready to slice the turkey, and I'm just lobbing up meatballs to Bill Callahan, and everybody's pissed off. I was just trying to prove to him and to the rest of the reporters, this was early in my career, that I took this gig seriously. That holidays didn't even matter to me, but apparently that wasn't the cool thing to do.
No, that was you got fined.
There were three people that Bill Callahan loved that year: Adrian Peterson, Eric Flowers, and John Kime. That was
there were, and I will say, because he would always call my name. He would always like reference my name, like, well, John. And I knew, so there were times I would ask a question just so he would do that. And it would kind of tweak Les Carpenter a little bit, just
Yes,
in a
it
funny
was.
way. But I would do like, I know he's going to say my name, so I'll just do it to tweak Les a little bit. And it worked. So, and there were always legitimate questions, except for Eric Flowers on Thanksgiving. Anyway, let's get back to quarterbacks. So because of, we've heard all about Sam Howell, but we also know that that as Ron said, they're not against taking a quarterback in the first round. Don't think that's likely. Don't think that's going to happen, but they are having Hendon Hooker in for a visit, quarterback. What would that tell you if they end up getting a guy like Hendon Hooker or someone else earlier in the draft? What does that signal to you? And do you think that's how realistic?
I don't think it's super realistic. I think that like Tanner McKee and that level of prospect, the kid out of Stanford and like third, fourth round, like that makes sense to me. If they take Hendon Hooker or anyone else in the first or second round, I think that would be a pretty strong indictment that of their quarterback room. And I know that Ron has said two similar but like kind of conflicting things all year, which is we love Sam Howell. Look at him beat a playoff team in his first game. We love his potential. We're so in. Also, we have no fear in starting Jacoby Brissett. And it's like, wait, if you really believe in Sam Howell that much, shouldn't you not be saying that about Jacoby Brissett? But obviously, like, it really makes sense under the organizing principle of this offseason, which is like, we will do whatever it takes to win the most number of games in 2023 possible. And so like those two statements make sense under that. But like if they drafted a quarterback in the first or second round, particularly one that is coming off an ACL or one that needs more development, like Anthony Richardson, not that I think that he'll be there, but like if you did that, it would not make sense to me with the rest of the things that you have done. And I would really question the direction and cohesion of the vision.
And I don't think they're going to take a quarterback in the first round. I think it would have to be one of the top two guys falls to 16, which isn't going to happen. So they're going to do it. I think Hooker would be interesting because he may not even, who knows when he'd be ready. So Howell still gets the call, but you still have a guy in reserve. You look at this franchise, they haven't had a good quarterback. And how long does this help you find one? But there's a lot of things to it. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I think with Hooker specifically, the ACL injury makes it complicated. I think it's more just to the teams behind Washington in the draft order. Ooh, we're interviewing this quarterback that you guys may really want to get in the 20s or something. If you want to get him at 16, you better jump in front of us.
Well, Hooker's not a first round option for them.
But maybe his quarterbacks rise, whatever. Like,
right.
I think it's just, the Vikings, there's some teams behind Washington in the draft order. So it's just creating an illusion. And sure, maybe it's prepping if he somehow gets to the second round at 47, like then the conversation might change. But I think with him and Washington, it's just trying to create some waves around the league, maybe strengthen their ability to trade back when the draft actually begins. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback on day one or day two because it would make Rivera's previous statements about Howell look foolish, and he doesn't like to look foolish. And also, they need more players who can help right now because Rivera's future is pretty undecided, and drafting a guy who needs to sit around and learn things is not going to benefit him in the near term.
I think one scenario I could see is if they traded, let's say they get second round and they trade back or pick up an extra second round pick late, then you could look at that. Well, is that a bonus pick? Then, so like, because I agree with you. I think the other scenarios, I don't see it, but I think if he falls in the third round, which probably is unlikely, but you don't know, or you get an extra second round pick, maybe. But, Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there are also concerns with how Hooker also adjusts to the NFL in terms of schematic stuff. I mean, Tennessee's offense, it was really efficient for them, but how does that translate to a pro level? And, the age is also weird. He's older than Jalen Hurts, which is, there are a lot of guys. He just seems like a developmental piece. And while that's maybe interesting, it's not interesting in the first round, and it doesn't jive with Washington needing to win now. So maybe quarterback later in the draft. But I also think, do you guys think if they take a quarterback in the third or the fourth round, I mean, that's higher status technically than where Howell went. So does that undercut Howell drafting higher if it's the third or fourth round versus a fifth rounder from a year ago?
I don't think it does because of how they rated Howell. What they think, and but I do like. I'm kind of that Ron Wolf philosophy, which is, you always keep taking swings at that position. So, what do you think, Sam?
Well, I mean, it's nice that they had Howell rated highly, but they didn't take him until the 5th round.
Right.
But at the same time, like he's been in the league. I think he has shown them something. They've seen him in the building for a year, so it's hard for me to imagine that a guy in the 3rd or 4th round as a rookie, no matter how much they like him, even if he, like Tanner McKee, worked with the quarterbacks coach at Stanford and would have some level of familiarity with like the scheme being implemented and them having a familiarity. I just can't see one of them leapfrogging both Jacoby Brissett and Sam Howell, like the young guy and the steady veteran, no matter who it is. And I think they also like this sort of reminds me of the start Sam Howell crowd, like in week 16 or whatever it was against Cleveland. Like, you have to consider the locker room here. Like, I don't think that like a veteran team that knows that they need to win now is going to be like, would be super fired up to start a rookie quarterback unless he comes into training camp and looks like that dude.
Right. And I think that'll be the interesting thing between Howell and Brissett, because what if Brissett just looks that much better, even though they want to see Howell win the job? If Brissett looks that much better, and these guys might say, hey, what do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I think it's very necessary for Howell to come out. Ron likes to espouse that all the teammates really like Howell, and I believe that. Howell in the locker room last year was very serious, always on his iPad. Like, he wasn't like Taylor, where he'd go around and chat up with Jeremy Reeves and then hang out with the tight ends and then be putting on that little practice putting green. Like, he was more just kind of to himself. But I think that approach meshes with the offense. McLaurin's, the Dotsons of the world, like, they're very about their business. So I think Howell has respect of the players. And maybe they did see some stuff in practice that makes them believe, wow, this guy's really good and just needs his chance. If it doesn't start out that way, and Brissett, I don't think Brissett's going to look like an all-pro, but if he just looks more steady, then yeah, when does Ron switch? But Keim, I just want to ask you, I'm sure you've said this on previous pods, so excuse me, but do you think they should draft for that 3rd quarterback, or do you think signing one would be the better way? Because yes, you want to keep taking swings, but the sheer numbers show that like a day 3 quarterback, just so unlikely that he becomes anything notable. So, like, sure, is it just worth playing the lottery because you want to play the lottery, or would you rather take a cornerback there that can help you?
I would take a guy that I like. So I'm not taking a quarterback just to take one. If there's one there that you like, which what they did with Howell, what San Francisco did with Purdy, somebody that you like that things could develop in your offense, yes, I would probably take him. I would never force it with a quarterback, because one of the things, and I had Greg McElroy on last week on the podcast, and his point was he didn't think there were any quarterbacks that had like some sort of special skill that the ceiling was higher. So like, he wasn't sure that it would be worth developing some of those guys as anything other than a backup, which you still need down the road, because but I would only take one if you feel like even like in Hooker's case, if you pick up an extra 2nd round pick later in the 2nd round, say, okay, you've got you got some extra money to spend, so to speak, and some extra draft capital there, I might do it, because if you think he could develop down the road, and this is a franchise that hasn't had that guy, then okay. And if Howell goes out and plays lights out, you got your guy. And now you got a backup that either you can trade or work with in that role. And then, who knows? Howell then has to get paid in a few years. Maybe you got your guy, or who knows? Like, there's all sorts of scenarios, but I just like this. I've covered enough really bad quarterbacks here to know that, are you ever done searching for that guy? And the answer here has been, no, you're not, because even when they had guys, they didn't last. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you automatically take one? I don't automatically take one. I only take one.
I would take one. I would take one later at the draft. I think they have bigger needs, even still in the 3rd and 4th round, that I would rather address. Tight end, I think running back, frankly, is a position that they should really look at the draft. It doesn't necessarily even need to be that J.D. McKissick role, because I think Antonio Gibson did that really well last year. So I would look there than just a 3rd developmental quarterback. I think if they've committed to Howell and Brissett, they should just mostly stick with that. But they're going to need a 3rd quarterback, because this team has played more than 2 quarterbacks for the last.
They always do.
Yeah, so that's life. But I think that's worth it over a guy we haven't mentioned, Jake Fromm. So
Right. Who's always been a practical guy.
and Steven Montez is somewhere sitting out there waiting for that call, but it's just
I'm gonna
calling.
I'm gonna make people roll their eyes, but I know like the analytical approach is unless you are convinced that you have your dude, if you have a Burrow or a Mahomes or whatever, you should always draft one. And
Right.
like I know that the super like analytical people would say that you take one in the first round every year. Like if you're the Dolphins and you had Tua and you weren't convinced after him, you should have just taken one anyway. I don't know if I go that far, but like it just, when you take Robert Griffin III in the first round and then you take Kirk Cousins a little bit later, Kirk Cousins ended up panning out. Or like with the Patriots, and I know that obviously Tom Brady's a super aberrational example, but like they had 3 or 4 quarterbacks and they drafted a couple late before. But I just think you can never take enough swings. I think there are a bunch of positions like that, corner, receiver, like
Edge
you can
rusher.
always use more. But like quarterback is the most important position in the game. So like Kyle said, like if you even like the dude a little bit and you're in the 6th or 7th round and you had like a 3rd on him, which I think is what the Patriots had on Brady, like I just don't think that you can pass them up for nothing.
Right. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And again, it's the Ron Wolf philosophy. It's how they ended up with Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre and, and they, Jordan Love. I mean, it's that same philosophy. So we only got about 5 minutes left. Is there a position where, looking at the first round, first couple picks, what do you think? Where do you think they go? Is there a surprise? Because I think we all look at O-line and cornerback, but is there a surprise position you might anticipate in those first couple rounds? We think
I keep going back to tight end, and on one hand, Bieniemy thrived with the tight end in Kansas City, but on the other hand, he thrived because it was the greatest tight end ever. Like, was that because his offense needs a tight end, or because he had the greatest tight end ever? Would he rather structure this unit around 3 receivers and then some talented running backs? And would a tight end just be fine if it's Logan Thomas or a guy in the 4th round? Does he need a Dalton Kincaid, the Notre Dame guy, Darnell Washington? So tight end and corner are the 2 positions I keep saying I anticipate most in the first round. But as I get closer, I begin to wonder, what does Bieniemy value the tight end position as, and will he force it because he doesn't have Kelsey here? So the tackle position is interesting. I don't know if, it feels like there's 2 who are worthy of like the top 10, top 12 picks, and then maybe some who are in the 20s, and the Commanders are kind of right in between. Would they reach? Would they want to trade back? So, but I feel great about one of those 3. And if it's not one of those 3, that would catch me off guard for sure.
Matty P?
Yeah, I've kind of been saying all along, if one of those tackles falls, do they, jump on it? Charles Leno is fine, but you can cut him at a very affordable number. I think they would save $8 million doing so. So, that's a position I would look at it rather than just, that's part of the offensive line. But I think when we talk about offensive line, we mean guard or center.
Oh no, I think all of them.
Yeah, sure, but but they have. If they don't take one in the first round, they'll be fine with Charles Leno.
Right. I think it gives them some insurance. They can go in any direction.
Sorry, Matty P. I think corner and O-line, even if they trade back, I still think those are the likeliest targets. And if you don't get one of the top 2 corners, I think that maybe Joey Porter Jr. or Deontay Banks could be there. But a surprising position, I don't know if it'd be a surprise, but one that would not fit those 2. And I guess you could say that Brian Branch is a slot corner, but I think he does kind of the slot overhang stuff that they really like. And he would fit in well, and he would create a competition with Percy Butler, I think for that 3rd safety with Cam and Derek Forrest. And so I think that he makes a lot of sense. And whether you classify him as a quarter or not would make that a surprise.
Yeah. And I like him. I wonder if he's at 16, is that high for him or not?
I think it's definitely high for him.
Yeah. But I think if you trade back, I think that's what about, because the other thing that you can never have enough of are pass rushers. Doesn't mean even an edge guy. Could be a linebacker who knows how to rush the passer. That, but I don't know that you go there in the first round. I think I'm with you. I think tackle or O-line and corner in the first round makes the most sense. There are some, but like this draft you can go into the 3rd round, 4th round, get some tight ends. Same with corner. You can go a couple rounds. Tackle, there are some guys that you can get there in the 2nd round. So for what they could use, I think it matches up well. So any final thoughts here, guys? We got about 2 minutes. Appreciate you guys coming on. Always one of my favorite podcasts to do, Sam and others. And I think I can get some t-shirts made for that. that would be fantastic. But any final thoughts here as we wrap it up?
My parting shot, Joey Porter Jr. would be William Jackson III 2.0 if they try to force him to play zone. Don't draft Joey Porter Jr. if you're not going to let him be a complete man island guy. Pete Hailey's signing off.
Wow. I
like
would have
that
to
one.
say that in classic Pete Hailey fashion, he just didn't watch enough tape. Because if you go back to his junior year, he actually played a ton of zone, and I think he would fit in fine. I think schematics is not a concern.
Is that why your Wi-Fi was so bad? Because you're watching all this tape? Because, yeah, you kind of ruined the start of the podcast.
So. My parting shot, going back to the ownership stuff real quick. If Stephen Apostolopoulos buys a team, I think we should call him the Greek Stephen A, and we can play it up as a caricature of Stephen A. Smith, but a Greek version and do an eccentric Greek accent. There we go.
All right, Paris.
All right, way to finish that on a high note there, Paris.
That's incredible.
Sam, good luck topping that.
My parting shot is no one brought it up except for Kime, but I have a green jacket on, I have a green poker hat on, and I have the green lights on because with all this ownership talk, I woke up feeling like money.
All right, there we go.
That's
another Pete, I appreciate your final parting shot there.
Thank you.
Anyway, great stuff, guys. Always enjoy it, and you guys are the best. So appreciate you coming on.
Kime, we love you. Anytime.
I don't know if I'll go that far.
I will. I will go that far.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Matthew Paris from the Washington Times, Sam Fortier from the Washington Post, and Pete Hailey from NBC Sports Washington for joining me. And thank you, as always, for listening. I'll be back with another episode Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Probably looking ahead to the draft. Don't know yet, but I think that's where we're going to go because it's right around the corner, folks. Talk to you next time.